This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Bonjour à tous et à toutes, donc on se retrouve aujourd'hui sur The Stanley Parable. Ce jeu-là, je crois que j'ai découvert un bon nombre de fins, mais je pense pas les avoir toutes découvertes. Mais ce jeu est vraiment excellent. Et je voulais le partager avec vous. Donc, une des fins possibles, je vous la montre tout de suite, c'est...
But Stanley simply couldn't handle the pressure. What if he had to make a decision? What if a crucial outcome fell under his responsibility? He had never been trained for that. No. This couldn't go anywhere except badly. The thing to do now, Stanley thought to himself, is to wait. Nothing will hurt me. Nothing will break me. In here I can be happy forever. I will be happy. Stanley waited. Hours passed, then days. Had years gone by? He no longer had the ability to tell. But the one thing he knew for sure, beyond any doubt, was that if he waited long enough, the answers would come. Eventually, someday, they would arrive. Soon, very soon now, this will end. He will be spoken to. He will be told what to do. Now it's just a little bit closer. Now it's even closer. Here it comes.
Et voilà, c'était donc la première fin possible. Alors il y en a une deuxième, enfin... c'est pas...
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself, that's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all.
Ok, alors il y en a une autre qui
No matter how
consiste...
hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Tiens, je peux éteindre les ordinateurs. Un truc qui ne sert à rien.
Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference.
Ça t'énerve,
Nor
hein,
did it
Stanley.
advance the story in any way.
Alors, il faut que j'arrive à grimper sur la chaise. En fait, il faut que j'arrive à grimper sur le bureau. J'aimerais bien... Voilà. Hop. Alors, non. Hop, hop. Voilà. On peut se baisser. Et je suis sortie. Ah, mince.
At first, Stanley assumed he'd broken the map, until he heard this narration and realized it was part of the game's design all along. He then praised the game for its insightful and witty commentary into the nature of video game structure and its examination of structural narrative tropes. So, now that you're here, what do you think? Isn't this a fun and unique place to be? Why don't we take a minute just to drink it all in? Okay, I'm over it now. What do you think? Are you sick of this gag yet?
Non. Je sais plus. Est-ce qu'il va nous mettre de la musique? Si je mets oui, je sais plus.
Well, I don't know how to say this politely, but you could literally just hit escape and restart the game any old time you want, like right now. You could have done it just then. Now would also be an appropriate time to quit. Any of these points and so many, many more, all of them are appropriate. I'm enjoying what seems to be an internal conflict going on where you are literally unable to act on your own desires to restart the game. So, just to push the envelope, I'm going to try and make this as miserable as possible and see how long you can maintain. There once was a man named Stanley, who people considered so manly. But the truth must be told, he was not very old and was quite particularly gangly. What Stanley liked most was buttons. He pushed them like some kind of glutton. He did it all day in a meaningful way, but his brain had long ceased to function. Which is why he is in this parable, and lives an existence quite terrible. And if you are not strong and keep playing along, you too will become quite unbearable. Yes. You too will become quite unbearable. Voilà. Et alors là, on peut rester comme ça, la musique va continuer pendant des heures et des heures. Le seul moyen de s'en sortir, c'est de faire échappe. Et recommencer. Bon, je mettrai les sous-titres de la chanson quand même, parce que là, du coup, on les avait pas. Donc voilà, ça c'était une solution. Stanley knew the office layout like the back of his hand. It was only a matter of time before he found the others, wherever they were. Just a matter of time. Alors... Je sais qu'il y a un ordinateur. Il y a un truc à faire avec ça aussi, mais j'ai pas réussi à le faire jusqu'au bout, ça buguait. Donc à chaque fois qu'on va redémarrer, ça va apparaître sur un ordinateur différent. Tiens, toi, je peux t'éteindre. Alors ensuite... Ah, si. Allez, allez, je veux que tu changes, je veux que tu changes. Et... Normalement, il y a un... Si, il y a un truc là qu'on peut faire. Hop. Oh, c'est un petit... Voilà. Oh, and I guess this is where Stanley felt he needed to be right now, in this little hallway. Here, with no distractions, to study room 417. Not to actually enter it. No, 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 no. That would be far too forward. Stanley wanted to know it from the outside. To see it not just with his eyes, but with his heart. He would know room 417 as no man or woman had ever known an office before. That ladder over there. Oh, and that little picture of a horizon or something. It's all just a never-ending parade of joy for Stanley. I hate Monday. Allez, change. Ah, je veux pas. Ah, oui, tant pis. Donc voilà, bon, on va continuer. Apparently no. Ah, no, apparently not. Hop, bon, pas rien de mourir, hein. Alors. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Bon, on va faire le truc classique. Voilà. Voilà, ça y est, je l'ai débloqué. Alors là, on va faire la... Je vais essayer de faire la fin normale, enfin normale, qui est prévue. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Profit, on va faire des profits. Tout le monde est unique, surtout vous. D'accord. Ok, bon, rien à faire ici. Ah,
Si, un petit truc aussi.
Stanley stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track.
Vous allez voir pourquoi je fais ça. Hop, je referme.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
On va dans le bureau du patron.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Hop là, alors, on va prendre l'ascenseur.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Hop là. On se croirait un peu dans Portal avec ses
Stanley walked
portals
straight
bleus.
ahead through the large door that read Mind Control
On va pas encore aller
Facility.
par là. Push the button.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens.
Nous, c'est
What
400.
horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
C'est le cérébro. Ah, j'ai envie de vous montrer un truc aussi, mais... En fait, on peut réussir, avec un peu de chance, à grimper sur les bureaux et à passer par-dessus la barrière. Sauf que le jeu s'arrête pas, ils ont pas forcément prévu ça.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building,
C'est mon bureau, là,
Stanley's
en face.
co-workers.
C'était
The
427.
lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Alors, je veux l'ascenseur.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe it couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly?
Zoop.
No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life.
Gros bouton rouge.
For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Je vois un gros bouton rouge, je veux appuyer dessus, mais ça marche pas. Bon, ça fait absolument rien en fait de toucher à tous ces boutons. Même ceux-là, là. Mind control.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, He knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Bon, allez, on va faire ce qu'il dit.
Blackness and a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over? Yes! He had won! He had defeated the machine, unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him, for it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Ok.
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Voilà, donc ça en fait c'était la fin classique.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Alors je pars pas beaucoup parce que le narrateur est quand même assez bavard. Alors je cherche le deuxième. Il me faut, où est-ce qu'il est? Oui.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Et... Non, tu veux plus? Bah alors.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Alors. C'est la deuxième fois que je le...
Oh no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room. Please take your time.
Alors.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Donc là vous allez voir, en plus...
Stepping into his manager's office,
le code,
Stanley
donc...
was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Ouais. Bon allez.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Cette fois-ci, on va décider d'appuyer sur le bouton on. Allez, hop. Hop.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Oui, blablabla. On se retrouve devant le moniteur, le dernier moniteur. A tout de suite. Hop. Nous revoilà devant. C'est pas notre contrôle. Ces petits boutons. Eh ben là, cette fois-ci, on va faire on.
Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes.
Oops.
Now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means, I barely know where to start.
Le vilain.
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die.
Oh,
anyway.
mince.
I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left.
Bon, si
but
on
I'm
décide de
enjoying this so
tu vas dire quelque
much.
chose.
You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not?
Oh.
These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be
C'est
doing
vrai.
right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a
C'est un gros sadique en
disappointment.
fait ce type.
But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge, it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't.
Goodbye.
Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever up.
Bon voilà, c'était la version apocalyptique.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Alors, ah, le voilà. En fait, il faut que je fasse recommencer à nouveau pour qu'il me charge un nouveau truc. Hop. Alors. Donc là, on va rigoler.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Bon.
Yet there was not a single person here either.
Vous vous souvenez
Feeling a wave
du
of
placard à balai?
disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Il a barré pour que je puisse plus rentrer dedans. Ok, bon, allez, on va aller
Coming
dans
to
le
a
bureau.
staircase, Stanley walked
Enfin.
upstairs to his boss's office.
Je vais vous montrer une autre fin, alors attention.
Okay, I think we all...
Et voilà. Ouh. Tu peux plus rien dire. Donc là, on redescend à notre bureau. Comment on lui a cloué le bec. Moi, je veux l'employé de l'année. Oh. Bon. Du coup, toutes les portes sont ouvertes maintenant. Tu es censé t'ouvrir, toi. Oups. Pourquoi ça marche pas? Tu es censé t'ouvrir. Pourquoi que donc? Bon. Je vais essayer de résoudre le problème. Hop, j'en profite pour appuyer sur celui-là, comme j'ai fait redémarrer. Alors, est-ce que ça va marcher?
Here's the door.
On va voir ça. Hop, alors. Oui, c'est bon. Et cette porte-là qui était fermée au départ, maintenant elle est ouverte. You are now leaving, donc vous êtes en train de partir. Tout à fait. Donc faut que j'arrive à l'étage 760. Donc plus on va monter, plus ça va faire sombre. C'est ici, il n'y a rien à faire. Donc là je commence à dire je vois plus voir où je mets mes pieds. C'est pas grave. On suit les petites lumières rouges. Ça s'ouvre toujours pas. 758. Ah. 759. Escape pod. Bon, je vais tout droit. Oh oui. Alors, attention. Hop. Voilà, donc c'était une des fins possibles. Alors maintenant...
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Alors en fait j'ai un problème avec ça, c'est que maintenant je peux plus cliquer sur cet ordinateur là, ça marche pas, je sais pas... Ah, arrête de monter sur la chaise, s'il te plaît. Ça marche pas. Attends, là ça marche. Et ben là, impossible de cliquer dessus. Alors normalement on devrait pouvoir. Ouais. Est-ce que... Oui! Oh, je l'ai eu. Je l'ai eu en baissant. Et en cliquant dessus. Voilà. Donc ça c'est fait. Ensuite... On n'a pas fini avec la porte gauche. Qu'est-ce qu'il reste à faire? Prendre la sortie...
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Non, toujours pas.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Alors, on peut...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
On peut descendre.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down?
C'est vrai ça d'abord.
Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream.
Bien sûr.
Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground.
Oui, je vole,
Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared.
Oh,
It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself? Believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Ou pas. Donc c'est pas un rêve.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Bon, alors, maintenant, voyons voir ce que ça nous fait. Oh, d'un beau temps partout. C'est le paradis des boutons. Oui. Bouton, 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 bouton. Bouton, le bouton. Et voilà. Donc si vous voulez que les barres de chargement apparaissent sur les différents ordinateurs, il faut bien penser à faire recommencer à nouveau. Parce que si vous laissez le jeu recommencer de lui-même après avoir trouvé une fin, ça ne marchera pas. Donc voilà. Allez au suivant. Bon, donc là, je vais pas y toucher à ça. Ça sert à rien.
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Serait-on en train d'agacer le narrateur?
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Donc là, Toujours personne.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief,
C'est toujours fermé.
Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ok. Ah. Oh. Oh. Alors pour être honnête, ça je l'avais jamais vu. Bon mais voilà, c'est une nouveauté. C'est pas parce qu'il y a des musiques que j'aime toujours autant les ascenseurs. Hein? Allez, hop hop hop, on se dépêche. Non! Moi je veux descendre, allez on descend. Non! Bon, il nous fait monter, c'est pas grave. J'entends des chuchotements, je sais pas quoi. Non, mais... Cette panda. Ouais. Non, 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 non. Bon, on va descendre. Vous entendez? Stanley, il vient de le dire. Oh, zut hein. Bon. Ben... Ok. J'ai pas le choix, c'est ça? Ah bah.
Here's the door, just go.
Ok, donc le passage est déjà ouvert, il y en a marre qu'on appuie sur tous les boutons. Hop, allez-y.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read
Eh
Mind
ben
Control
non.
Facility.
On va prendre là.
Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
Ouais, mais non. Moi, je vais
At
aller
this
là-bas.
point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Geronimo! Hop là, boum.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence
ça pue.
whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Non. Je me cache. Je veux pas voir ça. Oh, oh.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was
Il a
led
mué.
helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Oh, pomme.
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Ok, donc là c'est une sorte de petit truc bonus. Alors, ça c'est toutes les peintures qui apparaissent dans le jeu. Notre ordinateur. Office Layout. Alors ça montre le bureau depuis le début du jeu. Alors, le passage du bureau de Stanley aux deux portes, c'est ce qui a été construit en premier. Et les sections ont été rajoutées tout au cours du développement. Et c'est ce qui ressemble à peu près au truc d'origine en fait. C'est pas changé grand chose. Le corridor. Spacing of this opening section was important to get right. En fait, ils ont fait en sorte que qu'on arrive aux deux portes dans un temps, dans un certain temps. Donc ils ont fait par rapport au timing. Bon, les flying cabinets, ok. Les ordinateurs que j'éteins parce que voilà. Ça ne sert à rien, mais c'est pas grave. Les deux portes. Ça a été la première pièce concrète du design de Stanley Parable. Une fois que cette pièce a été créée, le reste du jeu en a émergé comme une sorte d'extension et une exploration des contradictions que peut poser cette pièce. Donc aller à droite au lieu d'à gauche pour contrarier le narrateur et tout. Là, je suis pas grimpée, d'accord. Donc là, il y a des portes, mais ça ne sert à rien. Mais différents boutons qui font des sons, mais ça ne sert à rien. Ici, nous avons les crédits. Hop. Hop. Narrator Kevin Brighting. Voilà. Ensuite, par où, par là. Le bureau du patron. Underground. Une version récente de la partie underground du jeu, donc la partie souterraine. Narration outtakes. Kevin Brighting, la voix du narrateur, a enregistré les dialogues de tout le jeu trois fois. Enfin, il a enregistré 3 fois pendant 2 ans. These are clips from early takes that we are not used in the final. Ah, et là en fait ce qu'on entend c'est des morceaux qui n'ont pas été utilisés dans le jeu. Donc en fait il a fait 3 sessions d'enregistrement en 2 ans pour tout le jeu. Mais vu ce qu'il raconte, c'est pas étonnant hein, que ça ait pris autant de temps. Parce qu'il blablate hein, le narrateur. Ensuite, qu'avons-nous ici? Le bureau. La maintenance room. Oui, on l'a pas encore vu celle-là. Une photocopieuse. Green light. Ok, donc en gros ça dit qu'en septembre 2012, ils ont soumis le Stanley Parable à Green Light. Qui était approuvé par Steam. La page de Greenlight avait seulement quelques photos qui a été suffisante pour convaincre la communauté. Ouais, en fait ce jeu a été lancé sur Steam et c'est les abonnés les utilisateurs de Steam qui ont, comment dire, il y a plusieurs jeux comme ça où on peut mettre, je sais pas, genre un pouce vert ou je sais pas quoi, et si le jeu semble intéresser pas mal de monde, il finit sur Steam et on peut le trouver. Warzone. Tôt dans le développement, ils ont designé une fin où Stanley finirait dans dans une bataille contre des aliens, enfin, n'importe quoi. The action game will become sentient and will wage war against the narrator. Donc en fait l'action voudrait qu'on se batte contre le narrateur au final. Et ils ont fini par se rendre assez vite compte que c'était trop n'importe quoi par rapport au style de jeu. Et en plus, des personnes auraient pu interpréter ça comme du foutage de gueule pour ceux qui aiment les jeux les FPS, quoi. Ce qui n'était pas leur intention. Alien Base. Ça fait un peu tron. Enfin, tron. Je sais pas comment le dire. Alors je vous fais des traductions à l'arrache, hein, The Lounge. Oui, on l'a pas encore vu. Ça sera dans la porte de droite. The Cargo Lift. Ah oui. Alors le cargo lift, enfin l'ascenseur du cargo, a toujours voulu offrir le choix de rester ou de sauter à différents endroits. Cependant, ils ont aussi voulu donner l'option aux joueurs de tomber et de mourir. Donc de se suicider, quoi, en gros. Alors, petit spoil, option numéro 1, premier choix, on obéit, on prend les escaliers. Deuxième choix, on désobéit, on arrive au lunch, puis au truc de maintenance. Deuxième option, premier choix, on obéit toujours là, on désobéit, on prend le lunch, on arrive à la maintenance. Ouais, alors ça c'est pas vrai, mais c'est pas grave. En fait, c'est pas du tout un spoil. Parce que finalement, il n'y a pas de... Là, par exemple, le passage dans les ventilations, quand les ventilations, il n'y en a pas. Il n'y en a pas du tout. Alors, qu'est-ce que c'est? Zending. Oui, bien sûr. Ce screenshot montre une première version de la fin connue comme The Ending qui a été coupée et réunie à une autre partie du jeu. Ça, c'est des trucs qui servent à rien. Trailers. Ils ont fait plusieurs teasers tout au long du développement du jeu. Et chacun de ces trailers voulait convaincre les gens sur l'esprit du jeu en fait. Et ce premier a été réalisé au mois de mai 2012. Ça montre une série de pièces détruites. Et la voix du narrateur informe le viewer qui se prépare à une nouvelle version de Stanley Parable. Parable. Voilà. Ok. Bon, on va pas regarder ça jusqu'au bout non plus parce que sinon ça va durer des plombes. Le mieux, c'est de faire le jeu, hein. 42. Il y a un bouton qui est sorti. Countdown desk. Ah, j'appuie sur le bouton. Ah Freedom ending. Bah ça c'est la fin qu'on a fait il y a pas longtemps. Monitor room elevator. Donc ça c'est l'élévateur de la chambre avec tous les moniteurs là. Bah ça on a vu. Ah si, là-bas on n'a pas vu. Donc ça en fait c'est les différents bureaux de Stanley. De gauche à droite, l'évolution du bureau de Stanley à travers le temps. Le premier a été créé en novembre 2011, le second en mars 2012 et le troisième en février 2013. Voilà. Plus de casiers. Encore plus de casiers et du bordel. Voilà. Et je crois qu'on a tout vu. Donc.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free.
Ok, on n'a pas le choix.
Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now, it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let...
Oh, qu'est-ce que je fais? De toute façon, on meurt. Voilà. Dans un beau sprouch. Et il n'y a plus rien. Ok. Ben voilà. Donc le seul moyen, c'est de faire échappe et de faire recommencer.